First, the death of Hannah Foster. It's now 2 weeks since the 17-year-old was killed after a night out in Southampton. In that time, police have found some significant new clues. And this evening, as we reconstruct the night of Hannah's death, we can tell you about some of these new leads. See if you can help find Hannah's killer.
Hannah was always a very happy person, one of those sort of children with a ready smile. And she's just, you know, that expression people say about flourishing into a young woman, that was what we were witnessing. It's just the sort of girl that you just always felt very proud of.
I first met her in Year 7 at school. She was lovely. She was just always there for me if I needed her, and she was a great listener and would help me if I had any problems or anything.
It's okay, I'll sure.
We decided we'd go out on the Friday, so we got ready together.
Can I get a double vodka and lime and lemonade?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
Can I get 2?
Yeah, no.
And that was all we had for the whole night. We didn't have anything else to drink.
What?
Yeah, thanks.
Cheers.
That Friday, it was comic relief, and a local band called Afterglow were playing in the bar downstairs. But Hannah and her friend Helen went to sit outside.
I know, they're so good.
She was currently studying for the 4 A-levels, and she'd just had a set of results which were straight A's again.
Have you guys heard back from the unis yet? Yeah, I heard back from a nursing one in Leicester.
Oh, I'm going to do nursing?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'm going to medicine.
She did a week's work experience in hospital last summer, and she just adored it, thrived on it, and that just confirmed for her that that was definitely what she wanted to do.
All right, then I'll see you later.
Okay, see you. Are we going to make a move?
Yeah.
We decided to go to the So Bar to see if there were any of our other friends down there.
Go to Lennon's on.
They only spent 10 minutes in the So Bar. Hannah and her friend had then planned to go on to a club, but decided against it.
We were going to go to Lennon's, but we decided not to because everywhere had been really empty, so we didn't think any of our friends would be
Should
there.
we just not bother?
Oh, yeah, okay, come on, let's go home.
We walked through Portswood, which is just full of shops, and we walked along a main road, so there's normally quite a few cars passing.
Did I usually come?
And then we waited at my bus stop, and then when we saw it in the distance, Hannah said that she'd start walking now, so we said goodbye.
Bye. Money.
Police need to speak to anyone who got on at that stop or who was already on the bus. They may be vital witnesses.
I could see her just approaching Shaftesbury Avenue, and she turned around and waved at me, and I waved back.
Hannah's short walk home should have taken her down Shaftesbury Avenue, Richmond Gardens, and onto Grosvenor Road. We don't know how far she got, but a witness heard screams and the sound of a car.
It's the not knowing what she's been through, and the imagination, and just knowing how frightened she must have been at some stage, and we can't get beyond that.
At 11 o'clock, Hannah dialed 999. She never spoke to the police operator, but her conversation with a man was recorded. She may still have been on the street, but the police think it's more likely she was in a car and dialling without her abductor's knowledge.
I instinctively knew that there was a problem when I woke on Saturday morning. She'd never, ever failed to communicate.
Once she came home later than we anticipated without telling us. She could see how worried we were about it, and after that she always made sure that if she was going to be late, if she was going to go later than she told us, that she got in contact.
It was a very, very terrifying and frustrating day because we knew Hannah. We were well aware that the police had had people say before, we know our daughter, she wouldn't run away from home. And it was just one of rising panic. I actually wanted to physically go and smash down all the doors in the neighbouring houses, and it was just a very long, very terrifying day. By the time I went to bed on Saturday night, I was certain that she was dead. And Sunday was just a numb day, I think is the only way I could describe it.
On Sunday afternoon, Hannah's body was found 4 miles from her home. She'd been strangled and dumped in bushes by the side of the road.
On being told, I think I immediately said, I need to see her. But something reassuring must have been said to me to make me think this is definitely Hannah they found. We've just been inundated with letters, flowers, cards.
I think it's really the people around us, the friends and the community and the police help that we've had that have pulled us through and given us that strength we need.
This is Detective Superintendent Alan Betts of Hampshire Police. Alan, this 999 call that Hannah made, that she tried to make, what can you tell us about it?
It's very difficult to discern exactly what is said on the tape recording. It's clearly a male voice, and from what we can make out, it appears to be a stranger to Hannah. We're trying to do our best to enhance it.
And you're appealing tonight for an Asian man, or Asian men possibly, come forward.
Yes, there's 2 separate occasions when Hannah mentioned to her friends that there was an Asian man or an Asian men, you know, two different people, who'd called her by name near her home. We're just trying to identify who they are. It's quite possible or probable they have nothing to do with this offence.
What can you tell us about a motive for Hannah's murder and how she died?
Well, we now believe that the motive was sexual and that she was strangled and left in Allington Lane after she'd been killed somewhere else. We're appealing to anybody who might have any idea of where she may have been assaulted. It's possible she was taken to a lover's lane or a dark area, and members of the public might have seen somebody there and dismissed it as a lover's tiff or something like that.
So it was after 11 o'clock on that Friday night, which was Comic Relief Night, of course.
That's
Someone
right.
may have heard something strange, may have seen something. Now, the new lead, or one of the new leads you've got tonight, is this connection to Southsea in Portsmouth.
Yes, I mean, it's about 25 miles away from Hannah's home. We found her bag at a glass recycling centre in Portsmouth, and we now believe that it was left in a bottle bank in Southsea somewhere after 6 o'clock on the Saturday morning.
And someone was seen putting what we believe was Hannah's bag in a bottle bank there.
Yes, we've got a vague description of a male seen putting a cloth material, which would appear to be Hannah's bag, in a bottle bank that morning. We're obviously trying to find out who that might be. It may be there's a perfectly innocent reason for putting it in. Somebody found it and put it there. So we obviously appeal to anybody who did put a bag in a bottle bin to come forward.
So the thing is, who do you know who had a reason to be in Southampton at around 11 o'clock on the Friday night, and then had a reason to be in Southsea in Portsmouth between 8:30 in the morning the following day, the Saturday morning? If that gives you any ideas, if you have any clues, call us here in the studio. The number is always on the bottom of the screen, 0500 600 600, or call the Instant Room on 01256 406 469. You can also email us. Just go to our website at www.bbc.co.uk/crime.
It's the biggest manhunt in the country. It's had huge publicity. It has 100 officers drafted in full time, and it covers an area of more than 500 square miles. The victims have ranged from the age of 10 to a woman in her 50s.
You all right then?
This is a community centre in the Stanhope Estate in Ashford in Kent. It's a good place for kids to meet up. But one evening last November, a motorist noticed someone staring intently at the club from across the road.
My daughter, she said, if I hadn't have gone out to get them posters in, Dad, it wouldn't have happened. And I had to stop her then and tell her off because it's nobody else's fault.
Quick, hurry up!
She didn't think he'd be any trouble to her because she thought he was picking somebody else up.
He's confident, which suggests a life of violence, grabbing from behind and quickly asserting control.
Walk. Pretend I'm your dad.
She said perhaps I should have screamed or shouted, but we've told her that she did everything right. If she'd done anything different, perhaps she wouldn't be here.
He's a risk taker. Each crime scene is busy with people passing by. When he started his assault, there were people only 30 feet away. He has weathered skin and may spend a lot of time outdoors. He often knows exactly where to take his victim. He seems to keep trophies from his victims. He took her orange T-shirt, and in almost every case he's stolen something. Once he took a victim's mobile phone and rang her mum to say he'd raped her daughter.
I'm going to be watching you. Count up to 500.
1.
The physical injuries have healed. We don't know how her mind's going to react in the future.
6.
That was last November, and the only known attack in Kent. Was he staying in Ashford for a short time for work? Is he in the building trade? Then a gap of reported rapes for 8 months until July, when he attacked another little girl in Bracknell, Berkshire. Just 10 days later, his next known victim was in Red Hill, Surrey, and this offered up more clues. The profiler thinks that given the choice, he may prefer blondes, but he'll go for anyone that's female, any race and any age, younger or older than himself. On the morning of this attack, he smelt clean. Had he stayed with you not far from Red Hill in July? But usually he smells of tobacco and of drink. If his victims try to look at him, he threatens them and hits them in the face, hard.
If you scream or look at me, I'll kill you.
Six hours later, he attacked again on Putney Common in South London. The next rape was 5 days later in Woking, and by now he was making headlines.
100 police from forces across southern England are searching for a serial rapist.
Renewed police activity on the scene of yet another attack in a series that is causing increasing concern. The man heading the Surrey investigations told me that women throughout the southeast must now be on their guard.
It was Tuesday, the 6th of August. I walk my dogs, or I did walk my dogs, every day on Wimbledon Common. I arrived at about 12 o'clock. I was actually feeling really quite happy that morning. We'd been walking for about 5 minutes. This man just literally slammed into the back of me.
Scream, you won't get hurt.
His voice was low and husky. I realised he was strong. He was muscly.
See this?
And he said, "It's a knife and I'm going to use it on you." And I realised this was serious.
Start walking. Can you feel the knife?
And he walked me back exactly the path I'd come along. And we went on walking, and he seemed to be really relishing in my distress. And I really thought, I don't just want to be a dead body that's found on Wimbledon Common and, you know, he's going to kill me anyway. I've just got to make a break and try and get back to my car. Almost immediately, he grabbed hold of me again and pushed me down. So I just, you know, let him get on with it. After he raped me, he said to me, he said, wait 5 minutes. Don't move for 5 minutes or I'll come back and slit your throat. And then he was gone.
There have been 3 more attacks since then. Who has the time to travel here during the day? If he works at all, does he do so in shifts or work on his own? And he may have a slight Geordie accent. If so, does he go home at the weekends?
The awful thing, I think, about rape is that it does make victims of the whole family. It's extraordinarily difficult for my children to have to cope with the fact that their mother was raped.
Well, the inquiry's now so big it's been run by an Assistant Chief Constable in Kent, David Kelly. This guy's got to have a criminal background. He can't do this from zero.
Now, we believe he has, and one of the groups of people we're appealing to are any professionals in the criminal justice system, police officers, prison officers, probation officers. Somebody's dealt with this man before, as you say.
It might not be for sex offences, presumably. It could be any sort of violence, theft, just anything. Keep a lookout for.
We would be amazed if he didn't have a criminal record.
What about psychiatric one? I mean, we postulated that, and I know that the profiler thinks it's quite a possibility that he's been in contact with psychiatric workers, social workers, or he's been in hostels. He's so dysfunctional.
Yes, he is, and again, we're appealing to people within that profession, counsellors, doctors, psychiatric nurses, and I think in this case the public safety considerations overcome professional worries about confidentiality and what have you.
Well, indeed, the professional bodies actually recommend in cases like this that people should come forward. And of course, there must be, if he really is in his 30s or 40s, there must be women, a whole trail of them behind him, who've suffered at his hands.
Hard to imagine that he wouldn't have a woman or women in his background, and so girlfriends, a partner, possibly a current partner, but probably ex-partners.
Then, what about his social life? I mean, is he so dysfunctional that he wouldn't have any friends, or would people... I mean, he must be drinking in pubs, or maybe he goes to off-licenses. You know, he's drinking in the morning, drinking at lunchtime, drinking early evening.
Yes. There must be somebody who knows this man quite well, either a work colleague, maybe an employer, ex-employer, somebody who just drinks with him. Somebody must know this man, and that's who we're appealing to.
I must say, if it feels as though you're looking for a needle in a haystack, actually, if you see the problem graphically, you'll see why you might be able to help solve this actually rather more easily than the police. They've got to start with something like 59 million people in the UK, of which at most 50 million will have the right sort of accent, and of those, some 25 million are males. That then narrows down to about 8 million in the right age group. Now, this is where you come in. Think of everyone you've met who fits so far, but is also roughly 5'6" to 5'9", that halves the numbers again. He's going grey around the edges. Not everyone has that. Not everyone has tanned, leathery skin. So he probably spends a lot of time outdoors. Not everyone's a smoker. The profiler is certain, as we've been saying, he'll have a criminal record, at least for theft or violence. Of course, you might not know about that. As we've been saying too, he's socially dysfunctional, so that he might have had psychiatric care or been in hostels. Again, as we say, he drinks during the day, and he has, or at least sounds as though he's got this gruff voice. Now, only a very small number of men fit into this group, maybe no more than a couple of hundred. But who are they? Above all, remember, he must have been in these places in the last 12 months. Now, some of these are absolutes.
Yes.
Some you're not entirely certain about, like the psychiatric history, for example.
No, some of them may or may not be accurate, but it is worth considering. And something I think important to remember is that although all the offences have happened in the southeast, it may well be that this man is from another part of the country and is travelling into the southeast to either work, but certainly that's where he's committing offences.
And indeed, this hint of a Geordie accent. So, I mean, the northeast is a possibility, but again, we've got to be very, very careful about that.
Yes.
You want names, you want really lots of names. You're not going to be overwhelmed if people ring in just on hunches, as long as a lot of these categories fit.
No, if any of the variables are ringing bells in people's minds, we want them to ring, because we have a DNA profile, and that enables us not only to trace this man, but also to eliminate any suspects very quickly.
Okay, can I just repeat again something David was saying? If you are a professional, particularly a health professional, all the Royal Colleges, all the professional bodies accept that public safety overrides all privacy of medical and other issues in this. And if there's anybody you know who fits at least 4 or 5 of these issues, there's nothing that rules him out, please give us a call. The number's showing on your screen, 0500 600 600.
Since January, there have been headlines about sex attacks on railway passengers. In just a few weeks, there was a spate of 7 assaults on women and children in the southeast of England. Looking back, it seems grim coincidence. There seem to be no links between the 7 incidents, and in fact there have been 5 separate arrests. Well, tonight, the hunt for the man responsible for the worst of the attacks. It made the biggest news, but it remains unsolved. That was the attempted murder of a Czech student in the toilet of a train travelling from Sussex to London. And it might not be coincidence that on the same day, in the same area, there was a rape.
I was brought in on the Wednesday. She was obviously very ill and she couldn't speak to us. So we had to devise a method of communication by blinking. So I asked her to blink once for yes and twice for no. She had a nasogastric tube, she had a line into her neck, she had heart monitors, and her little face was so badly swollen. She was in this country studying English. She'd been here for 3 months, and she was working also as an au pair.
On Sunday, the 25th of January, the student was going home after spending the Saturday night in Hastings. Now, 5 months later, detectives still need to trace anyone who saw her here that morning. So far, closed-circuit cameras are the only witnesses. Think back. Were you at Hastings Station sometime around lunchtime that Sunday at the end of January?
This is the 11:13 to Charing Cross, stopping at
Warriors Square, West St Leonard's,
Crowhurst, Battle, Roberts Bridge, Edgeham, Sandgate, Whitehurst, Frank.
Were you on the lunchtime train when it left Hastings, and did you see her?
Hello? She saw a man standing right in front of her, and that's the last thing she remembers. All she did was go to the toilet on a train, and she was brutally attacked. Tremendous violence, tremendous force, and such ferocity, such viciousness, just defies belief.
I'm just going to nip to the loo. Oh, okay.
There were only 4 coaches, and you may recall that very soon out of Hastings, both lavatories at the back were occupied.
The back toilets are engaged. I have to use the ones at the front. Oh.
Well, that's it. When you've got to go, you've got to go.
45 minutes after the journey started, the violence was over.
I saw a pair of legs on the floor. I thought it was a drunk. I wish that I had have actually pushed the door open and gone in, maybe then she would have got some medical attention that she needed.
In fact, she went all the way to Charing Cross and part of the way back before she was discovered.
I've been a police officer now for nearly 18 years, and I've dealt with numerous cases similar to this one, but I can honestly say that in 18 years I've never seen injuries as severe as on this Czech girl.
Now back at Tunbridge Wells, it's several hours later. This could be another man entirely, or it might be the attacker.
Hello, mate. When's the next train to Sevenoaks?
Sevenoaks, 10 o'clock, mate.
He was a bit drunk.
Oh, where's the nearest pub?
He was a bit red in the face.
Here, turn left,
So,
Bedford Arms on top of the hill.
I just told him directions to the pub.
Hello.
Hello.
I'll get you a drink.
No, I'm fine. I've got one here, thank you.
The thing that seemed to be very noticeable about him was the fact that he was very tactile.
Oh, why are you wearing it, mate? It's a nice coat. Keep it
No,
warm, wouldn't it?
quite
warm enough, thanks.
He had the sort of number 2 cut, so from Clippers. Slightly balding, but not very much. I asked him where he'd come from, and he'd said Sevenoaks. So we'd established his name was George, and he'd come from Sevenoaks. And at some point he mentioned about either being in Hastings or coming back from Hastings or going to Hastings, and a wife and a daughter, and he wasn't allowed to see his daughter.
Help yourself to a cigarette, why don't you?
There was a couple of bits of spittle which remained in the corners of his mouth all the time when he was talking to us, and they didn't disappear. His accent was either South London or South East England.
Bring my daughter up in Hastings.
Whether the fact that his pupils were large, I'm not certain, but his eyes were very, very piercing.
Around 10 o'clock that Sunday night, a 15-year-old was heading home. She was going to catch the 11:05 from Tunbridge Wells to Hastings. While she was waiting, the drunk in the Bedford Arms had become such a nuisance, the landlord asked him to leave and saw him off the premises.
Hello, darling. You all right? You want something to eat?
No, I don't. Excuse me, there was some bloke outside giving me some hassle. Just kept on pestering me.
Don't worry, love. You come and sit in here. Keep yourself warm, eh?
Thanks.
What train are you catching?
The next one's to Hastings, 23:05, I think.
It's all right. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Thanks.
Oi, is the last train to Sevenoaks gone?
Yeah, 5 minutes ago, mate.
Oh, can I swap that for a taxi?
No, of course you can't.
What are you, kid?
Was this the bloke giving you hassle?
Yeah, that's him.
When the train arrived, the man made no movement to get onto it. It was going in the opposite direction to Sevenoaks. But when the girl got on, he made a sudden dash to follow. And the station staff had to get the train to make an emergency stop.
What's happening?
That man's just got on the train, love.
I told her to go straight to the garden, sit by the garden, and that. And I sort of let the train go out and carry on with the work.
The girl did spend much of the journey with the train guard and got home to Hastings sometime around midnight. Were you at Hastings Station then? A black man with dreadlocks was approached by the man from the train. Soon after, near the seafront, the 15-year-old was raped. This is an e-fit compiled by the victim, mid-30s with closely cropped receding hair. Is it the same man as the e-fit compiled quite separately by the Czech au pair?
I wouldn't want to see anybody else go through the pain that family's been through. It was awful to watch that their little girl albeit she was 19. She's still their little girl, and she was suffering, and they could do nothing. And meanwhile, this man is at large, and he could do it to somebody else's mother or sister or daughter.
And that is the frightening thought. Carl Skipiet, 2 attacks. Do you believe that they were committed by one and the same man?
Well, that's what we'd like to find out really tonight. The similarities between the descriptions is very close. And when you bear in mind also the fact that these incidents happened within a number of hours of each other, and in the same area, the same location, Hastings, and within the railway environment is involved as well, that we are looking closely at the fact that they may be connected.
Now, the Czech student was so badly injured that it's only recently that she's been able to give you any description.
It is. It's nearly 5 months now since the attack, and she did suffer quite appalling injuries, and has still suffers brain damage. But she did manage to give us a description of the attacker.
And how did she describe him?
She described him as white, 5'10", mid-30s, of medium build, but she describes him as being powerful. His hair was receding, but very closely cropped and brown in colour, and he was wearing a wine, washed-out coloured jacket.
Now, given the violence of this attack, the extreme violence used, do you think it was a first offence, or do you think he's done this sort of thing before?
No, we're convinced that that this man has committed crimes before this, and probably against women.
And you believe that this attack happened quite early on in the train journey?
We do, yes. We think the man got out of the train cubicle, the toilet cubicle rather, at between Robertsbridge and Tunbridge Wells, and he probably got off the train at that time as well.
So all those stations in between are very significant in your inquiry,
They
then,
certainly
really?
are.
Now, moving on now to the girl who was attacked in Hastings, she believes that she was attacked by the same man who approached her at Tunbridge Wells. What's the significance? What information do you have on this man?
Well, if that is the same person at Tunbridge Wells and at Hastings, and there is some doubt as to whether it is the same person, he did give away a lot of clues as to his identity whilst at Tunbridge Wells. He gave his name as George. He said he had a wife and child in Hastings. He said he lived and worked in the Sevenoaks area, and he had in fact been to Hastings that day. If he's to be believed, he's left a lot of clues.
And briefly, what was his description?
His description was he was white, 5'8" tall, mid-30s, with receding hair which was closely cropped and brown.
What are you hoping for tonight?
We really want to find out whether these 2 incidents are linked or not. And certainly in the case of the Czech girl who was attacked, the actual savagery and brutality which this man showed towards her, we think that there must be someone out there who knows this person, whether it's a loved one or whatever.
Well, if you have a hunch, if you're a wife, girlfriend, relative, you have a hunch, you know that this man lives in the southeast of England, he's very familiar with the trains, and he perhaps has a history of violence, there can be no decent reason on earth to protect this man. So please, if you've any clue, any information, do ring. 0500 600 600 is the free call here to the studio, where detectives and BBC researchers are obviously anxiously waiting for anything you can tell us. Or call the British Transport Police on 0171 387 0354. That's 0171 387 0354.
Don't have nightmares, sleep well. Good night.